Hey everybody, Cliff Yates. Welcome to the Cliff Yates Show. We're live today and December 7th, and we're remembering those people who were perished in Pearl Harbor. I don't know, it just came to my mind. I was thinking about it earlier today, but it just came to my mind. And Merry Christmas, I want to say to all of you. Not a happy holiday, but a Merry Christmas. This year we're all proudly saying Merry Christmas. I remember a time on the LA County Sheriff's Department when we were not allowed to put on any correspondence Merry Christmas. We had to put Happy Holidays. Merry Christmas, we can now proudly say. And every year, Alba and I watch a lot of Christmas movies. We're going for 25 Christmas movies this year. So already we've seen, let me know if you're watching this on the playback or listening on a podcast platform. Leave me a comment at what you've been watching so far. We watched The Family Stone was number one. And I've actually watched twice, one with my mom and once with Alba. Christmas with the Cranks with Tim Allen. It's just, I mean, that's a classic right now for me. We haven't seen it in a long time, so we watched Die Hard. There's always been an argument, is that really a Christmas movie? Yes, it's a Christmas movie. Watch it, you'll see. Bad Santa, Billy Bob Thornton. I mean, that never gets old. Never gets old, Bad Santa. And then we have number 5, Home Alone. And number 6 was Home Alone 2. So let me know what you've been watching this Christmas. Going for 25 this year. And so I titled this live stream, right, to all my, to all my Christian, conservative, constitutional citizens, because, and I hate to put on labels on people. I hate to put labels on people, and because I don't like to be labeled. Although in the last few years we've all been labeled, and we've all been, put in a box depending on who we're voting for or who we're aligned with. And I don't know when all this started. It started quite a while ago. And depending on your age, I'll tell you when I think things began to change really with the, I hate to even call it a mainstream media. I'm going to call it the propaganda media. That's it's kind of a communist Marxist platforms. And if you watch them, and I put out on an earlier video how I was watching, I checked over to MSNBC and CNN, and I go, wow, if I was just getting my information from them, wow, would I hate me also? But if you go back, I'm 67, even though I look maybe 30, 31. I still have the comedy. If I go back to growing up, born in 57, growing up in the late 60s, 70s, as growing up in my youth, we had a TV set. We had 3 channels only, right? ABC, CBS, NBC. That was it. No cable. And usually the TV went off at midnight. You get that test pattern, woo, or the national anthem would come on. I would start crying, not because of the song, but because no more TV. Even as a youngster, I was a real night owl, but I'm actually not now. So we had 3 channels back in the day when we finally did get a television, and what would happen is we lived our lives, and then we would watch the news, the 6 o'clock nightly news. I remember the 6 o'clock nightly news with Walter Cronkite, and he would give us the news of the day. What would it be? 15, 20 minutes of news. We'd have national, we'd have local news, and then we would have a weather, sports, boom, and that was it. And then at night we would watch probably a sitcom, or we wouldn't watch TV at all, or maybe listen to the radio. But now there's so many channels, can't even make a decision. It's just crazy. And so, but I think what happened was whenever CNN came to be, where all of a sudden we had the 24-hour news cycle, news 24 hours, which, is nice whenever you wanted to check in, see what's happening around the world. It would just keep repeating, so you could check in on your own. And now they're just doing whatever they can, these platforms, to keep you on the platform for as long as possible, really trying to, take advantage of being live and clickbaity. Like, hey, look what's happening now. We have a couple of headless people here that just were decapitated in an accident. Let's take a look at it. And now we can keep everybody's eyes on disasters plus. But the good news, and I've been for the past 30 years involved with personal growth, motivation, inspiration. I'm still all about that, but there's a lot we can actually take advantage of those principles and values. It's not about party, and I took some notes earlier. It's really not about party. It's about principles and values, but we've been kind of separated into parties. But, with everything that's going on, we can actually apply some of those principles and values to what's going on to expand and still continue to learn more and become better for other people in our lives, because we can actually start asking powerful questions, not just what am I grateful for, what am I thankful for, what can I do today to learn something new and expand, but also, hey, what I'm seeing or hearing that sounds crazy in the public venues and what's going on and being broadcasted, is that really true? Hold it up to the light. Is that true what they're saying? Is that really going on? And so we can ask those questions of ourselves also, so we can apply those things to maybe hold some things up to the light to discern. We need to be really discerning. That's the problem with all of these networks that are really far left and far right, but the far left owns the media. They're the ones they own the media in the airports. It's going around in the public at all times, 24/7. So people that are just working, doing their jobs day by day, and they're just seeing, headlines and clips. They're not getting the true message as to what's happening, so they can have a skewed idea of actually what's happening. So I took some notes today about what was going on, and I feel good that I'm talking to my conservative Christian constitutional citizens. I really enjoy you, because we get along so well. And as a police officer, believe it or not, in the LA County Sheriff's Department, we really had a lot of training going to the Museum of Tolerance, learning about the Jewish people and what they've gone through. And we really were given a lot of cultural diversity training to try to better understand different cultures and how we can better communicate in our job as police officers and to have empathy for other people. We're not going to know what it's like to be Asian American, but we can try the best we can to understand. We can't totally understand being of a different culture, but we can try. Maybe we can learn something. So Alba and I, and then me also, being so I was a cop by day, comedian by night. So I was a cop for 35 years. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for supporting. Police officer, 35 years. Oh, stand-up comedy by night. Oh, actor, producer. Oh, now I'm doing health coaching. I really don't know what I do, what I am. No, I just, those are things that I did or do. That's not who I am, and that's not who you are. We are not what we do, but our identity politics keeps to be putting on us, right? We're known by what we do and not who we are, because what we do can change, right? On a daily basis, weekly basis, yearly basis. We have different seasons in life. And so we're not what we do, but who we are, even in what we do. And so those principles and values can carry over to all aspects of our life. But I don't know. So I think that's when the news started going 24/7 is when things started to change. And then they started getting advertisers. And then we got more 24-hour. So we had CNN, and then we had nobody else. So when a disaster occurred, we could tune in, CNN live on the scene, and they would send journalists and reporters to the scene to be there live. Maybe they would be all over the country waiting to step in. And now we have, competitors. And then we got more competitors. And then they're trying to do more to keep the eyes on the channel. And then all of a sudden, one became left-leaning. Now we identify with one network over another based on political things. And I think that's where kind of all of a sudden propaganda started coming in, because it was a 24-hour news cycle. Things were too quick to even check, verify. If you wait, the other channels got it already out there within 30 seconds, so we can't wait. So they're really just taking headlines that they're hearing, getting, and they're immediately broadcasting those things without any fact checking. And then beyond that, it became lying, because if you've been paying attention at all to what's been put out in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you can say, wait a minute, he did not say that. He did not do that, but they reported that he did or said that, and there's no accountability to not being factual and lying to the public and painting a picture. And once that mindset is of such a nature, then it's hard to change people's mind, or not open to discussion or conversation. And so, yeah. So, and it was also during the pandemic that, and I think it really, for me, it started changing when President Obama was in, and we started getting a negative cop bashing, calling for defunding the police, or just really highlighting bad, painting the police as bad actors and systemic racism and all those things. That's why it prompted me to really get one of my first books was The Truth About Cops and Why You Should Trust Them. And I wanted to put that book out there because I had worked recruitment. My wife had worked backgrounds. I worked closely with background people, so I knew what departments went through to hire people, where they might get 10,000 applicants, and out of 10,000, they might hire 400. And the background investigation process was so detailed and technical, and they would go back, to people's childhood and go back to their schools and the college police reports and check on their finances and financial reporting and social media. And if there was any indication of any kind of bias or a racist bias or, criminal activity or someone who wouldn't be of the highest integrity and moral fabric, those people would not be hired. Then they would take a polygraph exam. But the way the media was putting things out there, it led people to believe they just pull cops off the street. And no wonder they're racist and they're terrible people, and who would want to do that job? And so that's what prompted me to write that book, The Truth About Cops and Why You Should Trust Them. And that brought out all the haters. But so doing the police work, doing stand-up comedy, I had a little bit of a social media presence, just because I would advertise and try to promote my comedy shows to my fellow police officers and anybody else who would come to a comedy show. And that's where I had my foot, in different cultures, right? I'm in the police culture, police friends and family I'm associated with in my circle. I'm in with other comedians, different political beliefs, other actors, other business owners, other comedy club people. And so now years ago, police departments would actually promote that you not just be associated with other cops, other officers. Get out there and intermingle with other people and other professions. Don't get closed-minded and just thinking about cops and robbers and getting a mindset where everybody's a bad person. So you get to know. And it's hard for them to do that anymore because of the painted picture of the wrong propaganda of the police being a systemically racist organization. And obviously no one hates bad cops more than good cops, and we should get rid of them, prosecute them to the fullest extent if any wrongdoing. But now it's hard to recruit people anymore. No one wants to do the job. And a lot of people would get the job because they would see that their mom or dad or son or daughter, brother or sister were police officers, and they would promote, you should join this organization because you should consider a life of service in law enforcement. Now you have people that have been in law enforcement saying, you don't want to go into that profession. It's a no-win. You're going to be put in a no-win situation. And then if something happens, you're put in a no-win situation. You're going to might find yourself on the nightly news, and you're going to be a sacrificial lamb for the media and the department, and you're going to be gone. And if you survive, not to mention people are just shooting you because they're wearing the uniform, that's always been, there, but to the extent that it is now, I don't think it has been. And so you have police agencies not been able to hire, so now cops are forced to work overtime. They're overtired. You make bad decisions when you're overtired. You get depressed. You're not healthy. You get overweight. And look what happens. We have suicide rates that for the past few years have been climbing. I think they went down a little bit the last couple of years, and now they're on the rise again this year. And it's no good, but it's a never-ending. That's what prompted me to write that book, was because that was like after 28, 29, 2010. And I retired in 2013. But I got my book out there in 2016. And those things were all going out there. But the good thing about any of these things, you can still apply in any situation. It still applies. In personal growth and motivation, you you learn to apply questions that empower you. And what's good about this situation? No matter what you're in, through every adversity, there's an equal or greater opportunity if you'll just look for it. And so even now, when I'm thinking about, okay, people are getting this message about policing, now I want to write this book. So what can I do? I can write this book. Oh, you can actually self-publish a book. You can market it. And so I was able to research and learn. You know, it's great to be always learning new things. Wait, I'm able to write a book. I'm able to send it out and have people edit it, send it back to me for not that much money. I'm able to publish it myself on Amazon, available around the world, Kindle Direct Publishing. I'm able to make a paperback cover and put it out in paperback, and I produced my own audiobook in my own voice, and so that book was available in Kindle, paperback, and audio. And now you can also make your book a hardback cover. And so you're able to do this as a solopreneur, as an individual. So that's, what happens. That's what's going on with, we complain about the cancel culture and people getting canceled and stifled their free speech and their voice. But now, because of that, people are speaking out. And now we have these platforms where 10 years ago, well, maybe 10 years ago you could. 15 years ago, it was pretty hard. 20 years ago for you to have your own channel, have your own video channel, have your own audio, basically your own radio station that you could put out around the world to anybody to freely hear your voice. And there are no gatekeepers to prevent you from doing that. So there's an opportunity. And so the demand now, if you want free speech, stand up, speak out, and let it be heard. And I think that's going to be probably one of the new targets is going to be the podcasting platforms, because they know that free speech is out there and people are turning to those platforms instead of mainstream media for their information. And so there's a lot of different voices out there, and all of us still need to even more be discerning, hold everything up to the light, see what is true and what's not true. Oh, so I was going to get to the point. I have notes, but I'm going off on a tangent, going down a rabbit hole on purpose. And so having the social media platforms that I did for my comedy, Alba and I would do things and we would post pictures, of what we were doing with no intent or no political bent. But of course, we had voted for Trump in 2016. We followed Trump many years before. We watched The Apprentice. I was studying business and entrepreneurship, and I loved watching the show. It was like a business school, for free. And so I got to like him and what he was doing with people, and I read his books already. And everybody else was loving him, Oprah and everybody else. They loved Donald Trump. Matter of fact, we just saw him in Home Alone 2. He's got a little bit part in Home Alone 2 in the Plaza Hotel. But then all of a sudden he comes down the escalator, and now he's the Hitler of the century. What? We like him. He's pro-police. He's pro-law enforcement. So, hey, that's our business. We're going to vote for him. So we just went to the inauguration, took some pictures. The next thing you know, because we have a summer place where there are, people we know that they are left-leaning. And I can talk about this because they don't watch my podcast. Well, there's one of them that I know does. They may not after this. But, we just posted pictures. Next thing you know, people that we normally had dinner with on a regular basis during our summer stays at the summer location, all of a sudden they weren't even inviting us anymore. And then there was a couple people that were. And so I had mentioned, well, I wonder what's going on. I don't think it would be the politics. And they told me, oh, no, it is. It's the politics. Don't confuse it. Because of who you voted for, they don't want nothing to do with you. They think if you voted for him, you must be, even though they know who I am. And it's kind of disappointing that some of the, my great comedian friends, a few of them unfriended me. But a lot of them, I see the hatred they put out after this last election, that if you voted, I would not cross the threshold of a door to spend 1 minute in the same room with you if you voted for that Hitler. By the way, Hitler was a genocidal maniac who killed 6 million plus Jews. And Donald Trump has not done that. So, on another note, but we're all friends here, so I can talk to you like this. But so it was kind of disheartening when you get hateful messages and you can't really freely talk about what you believe or who you vote for in this country. My wife, born in Cuba and coming here with her father, who just wanted to be here in this great country. And he so loved America and wore that American flag every day on his body somewhere. And so they just really loved the freedom of the United States of America. Very patriotic people, specifically my wife's whole family and everybody in their community that I know of. But so we were a little disappointed to see that happening, people ghosting us, not talking with us. And so, Alba and I, as I was saying before, being with the Sheriff's Department, believe it or not, we serve people. We're out there to protect lives and property, regardless of what they believe, color, creed, religion. It doesn't matter. We're out there to serve. If there's a victim, we're out there to help. And that's the way police officers are out there to this day. And the bad apples that do come out, thankfully, through body cams and people's cameras, they are. Now, I am a little disappointed to see that agencies were used and politicized, and they were used to enforce, political laws, mask wearing and this kind of thing. So the police departments were really weaponized for political reasons, and it was disheartening that a lot of officers didn't stand up for what they were supposed to be doing, which is enforcing and defending the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state where they work, and not the political view of whoever was in power. But all in all, we have to depend on our men and women of blue. They're heroes, and I'll stand by that. And, I really just wanted to retire and do comedy writing and produce content without having to be involved with the political things and police. But I have to now. You have to stand up for what's right. And as a Christian, you're commissioned to not only bring other people to Jesus Christ, you're also commissioned to exercise your dual citizenship. And you're supposed to be part of your nation, whatever that is. You have a citizenship in your earthly nation, and you have a citizenship in the kingdom of God. And Jesus said you should obey what the government tells you to do until it goes against what godly laws are. Then you're going to have to stand up for your inalienable rights of freedom and state what is wrong, that you're not going to go along with it. Let me go to some of our notes. Okay, so I've already did that by memory. I already went over those notes already by memory. And you know what else it prompted me to do? Because of my wife's patriotism and what's going on, I had to ask myself some questions. How come I'm not more patriotic, number one? Well, because I was born here and took a lot for granted. Why do I not know more civically about government and how it works? And so now I'm reading all sorts of books on civics that I may or may not have learned in school. But now I need to be learning how the government runs, because we need to take an active part in voting in. People have, especially if you're a Christian who vote, you have to vote in the people who most closely align with biblical principles, or the principles and values that you believe and are more aligned that way. And so, listen, we are not electing, as one pastor said about President Trump, we are not electing a Messiah. We are electing a president who we need to, first of all, keep us safe, close the border, deport who needs to be deported. We need to work on crime, and we got to keep men out of women's sports and those crazy things that are going on. Oh, I did that already I already did that by memory. I have to remember, too, because what happens is, I meet a lot of nice people. We meet a lot of great people, and we spend time together, and wow, they're so wonderful. And then you find out that they're, if they find out that we are conservative or Christian or we voted for Trump, then it's like, nope, negative. They want nothing to do with us. A lot of people. Now, some do. But, it's really, we don't want these leftist, Marxist, communists in power. But most of the people who really lean left or democratic, they're good people. They're just ignorant of actually what's going on. And when I say ignorant, they're not stupid. They're ignorant as to, I don't like to spend a lot of time researching and delving into these things, but we really knew we need to discern what's going on in the community and the nation. And if they're just doing their jobs, working their day-to-day jobs, and they're just hearing sound bites and video clips, and they're not really able to do any research on what they're hearing, it's really not their fault. So, yeah, we don't hate them. We hate the actions of what they've been doing. So what I write down here, I wrote some notes to myself, right? Even in today's divisiveness, I wrote that we can use our personal growth and motivational principles and values to apply them to what's going on today. In other words, what's good about this? What can we do? What power do we have? Can we focus on? What we can do? Well, we can kind of research who the candidates are. What do they believe in? And we have a voice to speak up for what is right. And not everybody wants to do this. I know I confer with a lot of my conservative friends and family, and I say, hey, come on to the show and talk about this on the podcast. Oh, no, I can't do that. I don't want anything to do with that. Okay. So I was saying earlier about the questions we asked. So now I ask myself questions like, wait a minute, was the country really founded on Christian values? Now I'm reading about the Puritans and the Pilgrims when they first came over and what they brought with them, and about the Church of England and what they were escaping with and from, so that they could have freedom of religion. And what does the Constitution really say this, or does it not say that? Is China really doing this? Wait, are they behind fentanyl and bringing it across the border and supporting the Mexican cartels? And so, I want to find these things out. And so all of us should take an interest as we're seeing what's happening. And a lot of crazy things are going on. So we got to ask ourselves, wait a minute, is this really being taught in the schools? Wait a minute, what gender surgery to kids without the parents' consent? So chemicals allowed in our food. And so all this negativity about Trump, I mean, it's just crazy, because look who he brings with him. Tulsi Gabbard, people will argue she's always been a conservative. No, she's been a lifelong Democrat, serving in the military. She's a military hero. Served in combat. We got RFK Jr., a lifelong Democrat. This guy's lifelong, right? His uncle was JFK, murdered, right? His uncle murdered. His father murdered, Robert F. Kennedy. And so John F. Kennedy, his uncle, probably Democrat president, would have been considered a right-wing Republican today, because he was an NRA member. He called for people to... One of the worst things we could do as a nation is let our kids be fat and lazy. Can you imagine? He called for people to exercise, be in shape, live a healthy life, get outside. He created that presidential award on fitness that we used to have in all the schools. I mean, that was tremendous. We need to bring that back. So now Trump brings in not only Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and, he's been involved in a lot of lawsuits with... the environmentalists, they love RFK Jr. because he's sued a lot of big corporations over poisoning some of our waterways, and he's won some of these lawsuits, and he's bringing to light a lot of what's going on with the food that I didn't even know, even though I learned a lot going through the Primal Health Coach Institute, and now doing some health coaching, nutrient-dense foods, staying away from the sugars, the chemically altered oils, and all of these high fructose corn syrup foods that are meant to really addict us. I didn't even know that, when the Surgeon General came out with the warning on cigarettes, and the cigarette companies had to pivot, what they do, they bought these food companies so that they could buy these chemists to work for them so that they could make the food addictive, so people would be eating this food and it would stimulate more appetite, and they never would be satiated. They didn't get their nutrients, and they would be hungry to eat even more. And I could go on and on about Big Pharma being involved with these food companies, and the FDA, who's responsible for approving a lot of these foods, and then they take their next job after the FDA is with Big Pharma. And boy, it's good to really learn about this stuff and know about it. Oh man, I'll tell you, look what's going on. This is really... When you think about the polarization, and I was talking about the politicization of law enforcement, look at them going after President Trump on cases, right? Come on, busting into Mar-a-Lago over a paper case that would have never been brought only because he ran for president. This case in Manhattan, which was total BS. And the American justice system has become so politicized, a weapon against enemies with hall passes for favored groups. Attorney General Merrick Garland, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and dozens of big city George Soros-funded leftist district attorneys routinely prosecute innocent citizens while letting criminals walk free. We've seen it. The actions of these powerful officers of the law fit a pattern just like that of the great Soviet-era Russian writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Not only would have recognized this, but he also detailed it. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's prosecutions of both Donald Trump and Daniel Penny. Closing arguments for Penny's trial are scheduled like it was the other day, and I guess they didn't come back, convict him on the murder case or the manslaughter case, but now they're still deciding on a lesser charge. Here you have a Marine who is on the subway. You know the story. That crazy person enters the subway, starts going crazy, looking at people. And if you know people that are mentally ill, you can't if you lock eyes on them, then they're going to focus on you. They may come after you because you're gonna garner their attention, but you got to keep an eye on them. Now this guy's going off, making threats. I don't care if I go to jail. I will die today. And then he felt obligated to step in. And listen, when the fight's on, I mean, it's hard to have a measured response when it's a life or death situation. You're trying to control a crazy person who might have a knife. Who knows? And that's what happened with Danny Penny. And now they want to put him in jail because of this criminal who died at his hands, but he was trying to protect other people on the subway. And now Bragg, this guy that was prosecuting Trump, his prosecution of Penny, the Marine, much of the nation knows that Penny, a former Marine, intervened when Jordan Neely became aggressive and threatening on a subway train. Neely, who tragically died either during the confrontation or shortly after, was not simply a man in need of help. He had a long history of violence and assault. By stepping in, Penny averted harm to fellow passengers. Yet instead of being hailed as a protector, Penny was prosecuted. It appears Bragg is a fan of the Soviet Union's Article 139. As Solzhenitsyn, that Russian guy, explained, the Soviet state reserved for itself the monopoly on force, punishing self-defense as a form of insubordination. Such policies deliberately cultivated fear and compliance, demoralizing citizens and teaching them to rely solely on the state for protection, a state that often failed to provide it. Solzhenitsyn recounted the case of soldier Alexander Zakharov, who, when he was sentenced to 10 years for murder, for defending himself from a hoodlum's attack, asked, "And what was I supposed to do?" To which the prosecutor responded, "You should have fled." The chilling effect of cases like Penny's is already visible. People who might otherwise intervene in dangerous situations now think twice, fearful of becoming the next defendant in the crosshairs of prosecutors like Bragg. You can't have this chilling effect on people who might otherwise step in, former military police, to protect fellow citizens. You would think the people on the left who want less police, who want to defund the police, okay, get rid of the police. Well, listen, then you don't want to create a community. You don't want to create a society full of criminals where people are in fear. And now you want them to rely on government for protection. Well, obviously, then you're going to have more police. So you want less police, and you want more criminals out on bail or no bail. And you don't want people to get involved in protecting themselves or others. And this is one of those no-win situations that's not going to go. You know, the very people that want to have get rid of the Second Amendment and get rid of our guns, those very people create an atmosphere where people don't want to give up their guns because you're creating a society that is not safe. And so you're arguing against yourself if you ever want to lessen the amount of guns on the street. Once again, these people are crazy and they're nuts, and I don't mind telling them because you and I are friends and we get along good because we are like-minded. So that is about all the notes I had for today. And I'll tell you what, keep up the fight. Keep up the fight. Do what's right, no matter what. We don't return evil for evil, but we stand up for what's right. Do not be afraid of those who oppress you for what you believe. Continue to do the right thing. And I have your back, and we have each other's back. You know I love you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, everybody. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so that you're notified when the next video comes out. All right, that's it. Cliff Yates, out.